The quiet hum of the evening was punctuated only by the distant chirping of crickets as Mike Thompson stepped through the front door of his home. It had been a long day at the fire station, and his muscles ached from hours of lifting and hauling. The familiar comfort of home was supposed to be a sanctuary, but tonight something felt off. Mike glanced around the small, tidy living room and his eyes settled on a briefcase lying open on the couch. His brow furrowed in confusion. He didn't remember Laura leaving her briefcase here, nor did he recall her mentioning a new appointment. His mind raced with questions as he walked over and examined the case. Inside were neatly stacked files, but it was a small, white envelope on top that caught his attention. With a growing sense of unease, Mike picked up the envelope and read the handwritten name on the front. David Parker. His heart sank. David Parker was a name he knew all too well, Laura's pediatrician. Their family had been seeing Dr. Parker for years, and he had always seemed friendly and professional. But Mike couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. His thoughts were interrupted by the sound of Laura's voice coming from the kitchen. She was speaking on the phone, her tone cheerful but strangely forced. Mike felt a pang of irritation as he approached the kitchen, determined to get some answers. "Mike," walking into the kitchen, "Laura, you're home early. What's with the briefcase?" Laura looked up, her face momentarily flickering with surprise before she composed herself. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear and smiled, though Mike could see the tension in her eyes. "Laura, oh that. I had a meeting with a client this afternoon. I must have forgotten to take it back to the office." "Mike, it's not like you to leave things lying around. And what's with the envelope addressed to Dr. Parker?" Laura's smile faltered, and she quickly reached for the envelope, but Mike was faster. He held it up, his expression hardening. "Laura, Mike, it's just some paperwork. Nothing for you to worry about." Mike, narrowing his eyes. "Since when does paperwork get left on the couch, and why does it involve David Parker?" Laura's face turned a shade paler, and she shifted her weight nervously. She opened her mouth to respond, but before she could speak, the phone rang. Laura's gaze flickered to the caller ID, and her face relaxed as she saw who was calling. "Laura, oh, it's Emma's school. I'll take this." Mike watched as Laura hurried to answer the phone, her voice adopting that cheery tone that did little to mask her unease. As she spoke, Mike's mind raced, piecing together the fragments of this unsettling puzzle. The briefcase, the envelope, and Laura's strange behavior were all too conspicuous. Later that evening, as Laura prepared dinner, Mike's suspicion continued to gnaw at him. He watched her movements with a growing sense of distrust, noticing how she avoided eye contact and seemed preoccupied. The shift in her behavior was stark, a far cry from her usual easygoing self. After dinner, as Laura tidied up the kitchen, Mike decided to investigate further. He moved to the living room and picked up the briefcase, examining the contents more closely. Among the papers, he found a series of documents that detailed pediatric consultations and what appeared to be medical notes. His heart raced as he skimmed through them, each page revealing more about Emma's medical history and Dr. Parker's involvement. Mike's mind raced. Why were these documents here? And why was Laura so defensive? The more he thought about it, the more certain he became that something was terribly wrong. The next day, Mike's suspicions grew as he noticed other small inconsistencies in Laura's behavior. She was suddenly more attentive to her phone and seemed to be avoiding certain conversations. It was as if she was hiding something, and Mike's frustration mounted. He decided to confront Laura again, this time with more urgency. "Mike, Laura, we need to talk. I found some documents yesterday that don't add up. What's really going on?" Laura's demeanor shifted. She was clearly caught off guard, and for a moment, she looked genuinely panicked. She put down the dishes she was drying and faced Mike, her voice trembling slightly. "Laura, Mike, it's not what you think. It's just, Dr. Parker has been helping us with Emma's health issues. There's nothing more to it." "Mike, helping us? By leaving his paperwork at our house and making excuses?" "Laura, I'm starting to think there's more to this. You've been acting strange, and I want to know why." Laura's eyes darted around the room, and Mike could see the conflict within her. Her perfect facade was crumbling, revealing the cracks in her carefully constructed story. "Laura, I'm trying to protect Emma. There are things you don't understand, Mike. Mike, protect her from what? You're not making sense. If there's something going on, I have a right to know. Laura's face hardened, and she took a deep breath, clearly grappling with her next words. Laura, Mike, please, just trust me. It's complicated. Mike's frustration boiled over, but he restrained himself, trying to keep his voice steady. The once innocuous briefcase had become a symbol of a deeper betrayal, and the more he uncovered, the more he realized the extent of the deception he was up against. As Laura turned away, her phone buzzed again, and Mike caught a glimpse of the caller ID, David Parker. His resolve hardened. Whatever was happening, it was clear that Laura and Dr. Parker were hiding something significant, something that went beyond simple misunderstandings. And Mike was determined to get to the bottom of it, no matter the cost. The morning after Mike's unsettling discoveries was shrouded in a sense of foreboding. Laura's evasiveness in the briefcase with documents related to Dr. Parker had left him with more questions than answers. Determined to uncover the truth, Mike decided to visit Emma's school, hoping that a conversation with her teacher might provide some clarity. At the school, Mrs. Green, the principal, greeted Mike with her usual warmth. "Good morning, Mr. Thompson. What brings you here today?" she asked, her smile faltering slightly as she noticed his serious expression. Mike explained, "Morning, Mrs. Green. I've noticed some changes in Emma's health and wanted to speak with her teacher to ensure she's getting the right support." Mrs. Green nodded and led him to Ms. Jenkins' classroom. Ms. Jenkins welcomed Mike with a concerned look. "Mr. Thompson, how can I help you?" she inquired. "I'm trying to understand some recent changes in Emma's health." Mike began. "She's been a bit more reserved lately. Has she mentioned any recent appointments or changes?" Ms. Jenkins hesitated before responding. "Emma has been quieter than usual, but I didn't think it was anything out of the ordinary. Dr. Parker does visit the school occasionally for health seminars and checkups, but I don't have details on her medical appointments." Mike felt a mix of relief and frustration. The information confirmed Dr. Parker's involvement, but didn't provide the concrete answers he needed. As he left the school, he resolved to visit Dr. Parker's office under the pretense of a routine checkup for Emma. At Dr. Parker's office, the receptionist greeted Mike warmly. "Good afternoon. How can I assist you?" "I'm here for an appointment for Emma Thompson," Mike said. "I know it's not scheduled, but I was hoping Dr. Parker could see her." The receptionist checked for availability and asked Mike to take a seat. While waiting, Mike noticed a framed photograph of Dr. Parker with Laura on the wall. The image, showing them at what appeared to be a professional event, struck him as odd. When Dr. Parker appeared, his initial smile was warm, though his eyes were guarded. "Mike, good to see you. What can I do for you today?" "I wanted to discuss Emma's recent appointments," Mike said, trying to keep his voice steady. "I found some documents that raise concerns. Can you help clarify a few things?" Dr. Parker's smile faltered slightly, but he quickly regained his composure. "Let's discuss it in my office." As they walked to Dr. Parker's private office, Mike noticed a shift in the doctor's demeanor. Once inside, Dr. Parker gestured for Mike to sit. "I assure you, Emma's health is being managed with the utmost care," Dr. Parker said, trying to sound reassuring. "I appreciate that, but the documents I found at home with your name on them seemed unusual," Mike replied. "Can you explain what's going on?" Dr. Parker's eyes narrowed. "Mike, I'm not sure what you're implying. Laura and I have a professional relationship. If you have concerns, they should be addressed with her directly." Mike's frustration was evident. "It's not just about Emma's health. I'm worried about why Laura seems so evasive and why your name keeps coming up. Is there something going on between the two of you?" Dr. Parker's expression hardened. "I think we've reached the limit of this conversation. If you have concerns, you should talk to Laura. Good day, Mike." Dr. Parker's abrupt end to the meeting left Mike feeling unsettled. The doctor's reaction confirmed that something was amiss. That evening, Mike returned home to find a text message from Laura requesting a meeting to discuss important matters. His anxiety spiked as he read the message. The confrontation he had been dreading was imminent. When Laura arrived, her demeanor was calm but strained. She set her bag down and greeted Mike with a strained smile. "Mike, I'm glad you're home. I saw your message. What's this about?" Mike's expression was serious as he responded, "Laura, We need to talk about Dr. Parker and the documents I found. I spoke with Ms. Jenkins and Dr. Parker today. Something isn't right, and I need to know what's going on. Laura's face grew pale, and she avoided eye contact. Mike, I've been trying to keep this from affecting Emma, but what? Mike pressed. Why are you so defensive? What's really happening between you and Dr. Parker? Laura sighed deeply, her shoulders slumping. I didn't want to tell you like this, but Dr. Parker and I have been seeing each other. It started as a professional relationship, but became something more. Mike's world seemed to tilt as he processed her words. So, this has been going on behind my back, and you've been using Emma's health as a cover. Laura's eyes were filled with regret. It wasn't supposed to end up like this. I was trying to protect Emma, but I see now how everything has unraveled. I'm sorry, Mike. Stunned into silence, Mike felt the weight of the betrayal press heavily on him. The lies and deceit had reached a breaking point, and he realized that the path forward would be fraught with pain and confrontation. As he stood there, grappling with the enormity of Laura's admission, he understood that the secrets and lies were just the beginning of a far more complicated and painful journey. Mike decided to focus on tracking Dr. Parker's activities more closely. He parked his truck a few blocks from the doctor's office, setting up his surveillance equipment with a mix of apprehension and resolve. From his vantage point, he observed Dr. Parker's comings and goings, noting the frequent visits from Laura and other irregularities. Later that afternoon, Mike made his way to Jake's office. Jake, an old friend who ran a private investigation firm, greeted him with a mix of surprise and concern. Mike, it's been a while. What's going on? Jake asked, seeing the tension in Mike's face. I need your help, Mike said, laying out a folder of photographs and documents on Jake's desk. I suspect that Laura and Dr. Parker are having an affair, and I need to gather solid evidence. Jake examined the materials, his brow furrowing. An affair? That's serious. What do you have so far? Mike pointed to the photos and documents. I caught them together several times. I need more than this: detailed reports, records, anything that proves their relationship and its impact on Emma. Got it, Jake said, nodding. I'll start by surveilling Dr. Parker and digging into his background. I'll also look into any suspicious medical records. With Jake on the case, Mike continued his own investigation, diving into Emma's medical records. He noticed discrepancies in appointment dates and unexplained visits to Dr. Parker's office. The irregularities made him more certain that the appointments were a cover for something far more personal. One evening, as Mike reviewed the records at home, his phone buzzed with a call from Jake. Mike, I've got something for you, Jake said. Dr. Parker's been meeting Laura not just during office hours, but also late at night. I've got footage of them leaving his apartment looking quite cozy. Mike's pulse quickened. How late are we talking about? After midnight, Jake replied. I'll send you the footage. It's clear they got more than just a professional relationship. Mike watched the footage with a growing sense of betrayal. Laura and Dr. Parker were shown leaving his apartment late at night, their interactions intimate and familiar. The evidence was damning, confirming his worst fears. Ready to confront the pair, Mike arranged a meeting at a local cafe known for its quiet atmosphere. Laura arrived first, her smile faltering as she saw Mike's serious expression. Mike, what's this about? Laura asked, her voice tinged with apprehension. Mike slid the folder of evidence across the table. Laura, I collected quite a bit of information about you and Dr. Parker. We need to talk about what's been happening. Laura's face went pale as she opened the folder and glanced through the documents. Mike, I didn't want you to find out this way. It wasn't supposed to end up like this. Laura, this isn't just about you and Dr. Parker, Mike said, his voice steady despite the turmoil inside. It's about how this affair is affecting Emma and our lives. You've crossed a line, and it's impacting our daughter's well-being. Dr. Parker, who had just arrived, joined the conversation, his demeanor defensive. Mike, I understand you're upset, but I've always prioritized Emma's care. Mike's eyes locked onto Dr. Parker's. Your so-called care has been tainted by your personal relationship with Laura. This isn't just about what you two have done. It's about how it's affected our family. Laura's attempts to justify their actions fell flat against the overwhelming evidence. I'm sorry, Mike. I should have handled this differently, but I was trying to protect Emma. Mike shook his head, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. Protecting Emma? This is the opposite of protection. You've let your personal issues affect her health and our family's stability. As Mike left the cafe, the weight of the confrontation was heavy on his shoulders. He had gathered the evidence he needed, but the emotional toll of exposing Laura and Dr. Parker's deceit was significant. The journey ahead promised legal battles and personal upheaval, but for now, he had taken crucial steps towards uncovering the truth. Mike had meticulously gathered evidence against Laura and Dr. Parker, but the battle was far from over. His focus now was on countering Laura's schemes and reinforcing his position as a responsible father. With Laura attempting to paint him as unfit, Mike knew he needed to prepare for the legal confrontation and counteract her efforts. As Mike reviewed his strategy with Jake in the latter's office, Jake mentioned an unexpected ally. "Mike, there's a journalist named Lisa Carter who's been investigating Dr. Parker for some time," Jake said, his eyes glinting with hope. "She might have crucial information about his dealings." "Lisa Carter?" Mike asked, a spark of hope igniting. "I heard of her. What does she know?" "She's dug into some questionable practices at the clinic where Dr. Parker works. I've arranged a meeting with her. She could be a valuable ally." The next day, Mike met Lisa at a quiet coffee shop. She was a sharp, driven journalist who had been following Dr. Parker's career closely. "I appreciate you meeting with me, Lisa," Mike began, laying out the evidence he had gathered. "I need to expose Dr. Parker's misconduct and clear my name." Lisa reviewed the documents and photographs. "This is quite a case you've got. I've been tracking Dr. Parker's activities for a while now. There are more pieces to this puzzle that I can help uncover." Mike leaned forward, his voice earnest. "Any information you can provide about Dr. Parker's professional misconduct would be invaluable." Lisa nodded. "I've got insider information and ongoing investigations. If you're willing to work together, I can dig deeper into his background and help bring this to light." With Lisa's unexpected support secured, Mike felt a renewed sense of determination. Yet he knew he needed to confront Laura directly to address her recent accusations and make his stance clear. Arranging a meeting at a neutral location, Mike prepared himself for a candid discussion. When Laura arrived, she looked anxious and defensive. "Mike, what's this meeting about?" Laura asked, sitting down across from him. Mike pushed a folder of evidence towards her. "Laura, we need to talk about these accusations. I've got proof of your affair with Dr. Parker and evidence of how it's affecting Emma." Laura's eyes widened as she flipped through the documents. "Mike, I didn't want it to come to this. I thought I could manage everything, but I see now how it's all spiraled out of control." Mike's tone was firm. "Laura, it's not just about your affair. It's about how you've used Emma to cover it up and undermine my role as her father. This has serious consequences." Laura's face fell, tears welling up. "I didn't realize how far things had gone. I thought I was doing the right thing, but I see now that I've only made everything worse." Mike watched as Laura broke down, her earlier defiance melting into vulnerability. "I thought I could control the situation, but I've lost everything. I'm sorry, Mike. I never meant for it to affect Emma like this." The emotional toll of the confrontation weighed heavily on Mike. Despite the emotional display, he knew he had to stay focused on the larger battle. The meeting had revealed Laura's regret, but also cemented his resolve to see the situation through. Later that evening, Mike reviewed the new information from Lisa and Jake. The data was promising and would bolster his case significantly. The alliance with Lisa had given him an unexpected edge, and Jake's investigative skills had provided critical insights. As Mike prepared for the next stages of his legal battle, he reflected on the personal and professional collisions that had marked his journey. The challenges ahead were daunting, but with newfound support and determination, Mike felt ready to face the fire that had ignited in his life and fight for justice. The road ahead was filled with uncertainty, but Mike was resolute. The revelations and confrontations had been necessary steps, and he was prepared to continue his fight for his rights and Emma's future. The culmination of Mike's struggle was at hand. After months of relentless effort and investigation, the final showdown was set in the courtroom. Every detail he had meticulously gathered, from hidden emails to questionable medical records, had led to this pivotal moment. In the days leading up to the court hearing, Mike reviewed the final evidence with Lisa and Jake. They had successfully uncovered the extent of Dr. Parker's misconduct and Laura's deceitful manipulation. One afternoon, Jake leaned over his desk, holding the final investigative report. "Mike, here's the latest from Lisa," Jake said, handing over the document. "Dr. Parker's records show more inconsistencies than we thought. Laura's attempts to paint you as unfit have fallen apart." Mike scanned the report, a mix of relief and resolve in his eyes. "This is it. We need to ensure the court sees the whole picture. Emma deserves better than what Laura and Dr. Parker have tried to orchestrate." On the day of the hearing, the courtroom buzzed with anticipation. Laura, now visibly exhausted, sat beside Dr. Parker, who looked increasingly uneasy. Mike took his place at the front, a determined look on his face. As Mike testified, he laid out the evidence with clear, unwavering conviction. "Your Honor, the documents and testimonies I provided revealed that my ex-wife, Laura Thompson, and Dr. David Parker had engaged in a deceitful affair. This has affected not only my reputation, but also the well-being of my daughter, Emma. I have been falsely accused, and the truth needs to be heard." The room fell silent as Jake presented a series of documents and recordings. The evidence demonstrated Dr. Parker's unethical behavior and Laura's attempts to manipulate the situation. Laura's composure cracked as the details emerged. Laura, tears streaming down her face. "I didn't want it to end this way, Mike. I just wanted a better life for Emma. I made mistakes, and I see now how wrong I was." "Mike, Laura, it's not just about your mistakes. It's about the damage caused to Emma and the lies you spread. It's time to face the consequences of your actions." Dr. Parker's attempts to deflect blame were futile. The mounting evidence painted a clear picture of his misconduct. The judge listened attentively, weighing the evidence with care. After a tense period of deliberation, the judge ruled in Mike's favor. The custody arrangement was amended to grant Mike primary custody of Emma, and Laura was ordered to undergo counseling and community service. Dr. Parker faced professional consequences, including a review by medical boards. In the aftermath of the ruling, Mike took Emma home, their bond stronger than ever. The relief and joy of reclaiming his role as a father were overwhelming. The community rallied around him, offering support and congratulations. One evening, as Mike and Emma enjoyed a quiet dinner, his phone buzzed with a message from Lisa. It read, "Congratulations, Mike. I've been following the fallout from the case, and it seems like justice has been served. I'm proud to have been part of this." Mike smiled, feeling a sense of closure. He had navigated through deceit and betrayal, ultimately clearing his name and securing Emma's future. Months later, as Mike walked through the park with Emma, he encountered a new face, Sarah, a kind-hearted woman he had met through a community support group. Their initial meetings had been friendly, and over time, a deeper connection had formed. "Sarah, Mike, I'm glad to see you and Emma out enjoying the day. How have things been, Mike?" "Things are finally settling down. It's been a challenging journey, but we're finding our rhythm again." Their conversations had grown more personal, and a genuine bond developed. As they continued to support each other, Mike found himself drawn to Sarah's warmth and understanding. Their budding relationship was a hopeful sign of a new beginning. One evening, as Mike and Sarah walked along the lake, he took a deep breath and spoke from the heart. "Sarah, I know things have been tough lately, but having you in my life has been a bright spot. I'm ready to move forward, and I'd like for us to explore where this connection could lead." Sarah smiled, her eyes reflecting her own feelings. "I like that too, Mike. We've both been through a lot, and I think we have something special." The story concluded with a sense of closure and new beginnings. Mike had faced the flames of betrayal and emerged victorious. His redemption was not just about clearing his name, but also about finding personal happiness and rebuilding his life. The community's support, Emma's unwavering trust, and the unexpected romance with Sarah marked a hopeful end to Mike's tumultuous journey. The final chapter of his story was one of triumph, love, and the promise of a brighter future.